Hey, crime family. Welcome to episode 9, our Texas episode of True Crime.
State of Mind. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Brooke, and I have a confession to make. I am addicted to TikTok. I never had a TikTok, and then I got one just for this podcast, and oh my God. Every night I'm like, I gotta watch all these TikToks. It's so amazing. So I have a friend that her 16-year-old daughter, I think she's 16, she's either 15 or 16, and she was recently diagnosed with Tourette's. And so I've been watching these girls on TikTok that have Tourette's, and it is so fascinating. So there's this one girl named Baylin, and she's so cool, and she has all these friends and a boyfriend, and she goes to college. I think she's a freshman. I think she's like 19. And she is just so interesting. And then there's also this other TikToker named Rachel. I think it's Schleif or Schleif. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. They also go by Keat. Their pronouns are they, them. And they are so interesting too because they really bring awareness as to what Tourette's looks like on a day-to-day basis. And it's just so interesting. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And plus I love the dance ones. The ones where they dance. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Love it. Anyways, that's my little confession for the day. I'm addicted to TikTok now. So I follow all these people on the True Crime State of Mind TikTok because I don't have my own. I mean, I probably could make my own, but I just follow them on the True Crime one. But if you're not following us on TikTok, make sure you do. We're True Crime State of Mind. And I post like teasers on there before the episodes come out on Monday. I post teasers, videos like that. So y'all should follow us.
Follow us.
Yeah. All right. So this one is Andrea's episode. So take it away, Andrea.
All right. So I decided to do the eyeball killer. For those of you that are familiar, you'll definitely know how gross and sick this guy was. For those of you that are not.
Anything yeah. Eyeballs and teeth, like I'm just like fingernails. Like,
I know.
It gives me the willies.
It's so crazy. Like, this is definitely one of the creepier ones just because of what he does. Right. But yeah, it's definitely really interesting as well.
Do you wear contacts?
I can't. Yeah, they just pop right out of my eyes.
Oh, okay. I cannot, I can't even fathom having to touch my, I don't even wear glasses, but I cannot even fathom to touch my eye.
To me, it wasn't that bad. That wasn't the bad part. It was actually physically wearing them that was bad. So.
Yeah.
But anyways, so in this story, we do have 3 victims. Mary Lou Pratt, she was 33. She was a Caucasian, well-known prostitute in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas. And then Susan Beth Peterson, 27, Caucasian as well, also a prostitute in that same neighborhood area. A lot of crime happens in this area if it wasn't clear by all the prostitution, but lots of drugs, lots of, assaults, that sort of thing. And also Shirley Williams, she's 45, and she was an African-American prostitute near the same area of that neighborhood in Dallas. So there's one perpetrator in this case, Charles Albright. I had a little backstory on him. I actually found quite a bit of information on him, but not so much the victims. I assume because of their line of work that there wasn't a lot of information out there, which is kind of sad because they're still human. Tons of information on Charles, though. He was born in Amarillo, Texas, and adopted from an orphanage by Dell and Fred Albright. His adopted mother was a school teacher, and she was very strict and overprotective of him. But since she was a school teacher, she actually helped speed up his education as well, and he skipped 2 grades, so he was pretty smart. Oh. Just like many other stories of psychopaths, when Charles got his first gun as a teenager, he actually started killing small animals with it. So, I mean,
it's Texas. That's not... no offense to Texas, but y'all like your guns.
Right, truth. That's definitely true, but it is a tale as old as time as well of mutilating animals. Yeah.
Right, animal cruelty.
Yeah, so even more creepy and chill-worthy. His mother would help him stuff the animals because of his interest in taxidermy.
I mean, people do it. I mean, it's a hobby. You know, the funny thing, my next door neighbor, she's not my next door neighbor anymore, but my next door neighbor used to taxidermy mice that she found in the yard, and she would make them into the weirdest things, the husband and wife, like a groom and bride, and then sold them on eBay for like crazy amounts of money.
What?
Yeah, some people have some weird tastes, I guess. I'm not into it.
Just don't. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say to that.
So weird. So weird. Anyway,
I guess whatever makes you happy. I mean,
I that's not like
art is art, right?
I mean, she was kind of a thrifter. Like, she would go get stuff from the DI, which is like our Goodwill, and resell it, make things out of it and resell it. And she'd make these art pieces that were basically made out of junk, but they were pretty cool. But yeah, when she started doing that, I was like, and she was so proud of it, and I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, people are buying it, so.
I mean, that's all that matters,
so I guess
right?
it's worth
Whatever.
making. I was just like, ugh.
Oh, it freaks me out. It's a little gross.
I have a hard time, like, taking the giblets out of the turkey at Thanksgiving, guys. Ugh.
Oh, man, me too. But still, to me, this seemed weird until you told me about your neighbor, and now I feel like it's a normal thing. Right. To me, it was not normal, but I guess it is.
I don't know.
So Charles had a really tough past, and it wasn't because his family wasn't great. He had a great family life, but he always just seemed to be getting into trouble.
How old was he when he was adopted? Was he a baby?
Yeah, he was a baby.
Like a child?
Yeah, he was a baby.
Oh, he was a baby.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But at age 13, Charles had already been arrested for petty theft and aggravated assault. So he's getting into trouble already, and he's only 13. At age 15, he graduated from high school, and then he enrolled in North Texas State University. So he graduated really young.
Yeah.
He was interested in becoming a doctor or a surgeon, so he started up pre-med but never completed it. At age 16, police caught him with stolen petty cash along with 2 handguns and a rifle. And at this time, he spent a year in jail. So you think you would learn a lesson from that, right? But he didn't, of course. After his release from jail, he attended Arkansas State Teachers College and majored in pre-med studies. And then that is where they found him with stolen items and expelled him from school. But he was not prosecuted at this time. So then the story goes on. And then he falsified a degree. He stole documents, forged signatures, giving himself a bachelor's and master's degree. He married his first college girlfriend, and they had a daughter together. And during all this time, he was forging checks. He was caught in this deception while he was teaching at a high school and was placed on probation. So even though he was forging a bunch of checks, he only got probation at this time. His wife basically said, "I've had enough of your bullshit." And in 1965, they separated and eventually divorced in 1974. I think that's a long separation, 9 years.
Yeah, that's like 9 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I feel like maybe she had enough of his bullshit, but back then women couldn't have a lot of things.
Right.
So I think she kind of needed him, maybe. I mean, nowadays that wouldn't fly, but because we can, as women, have more rights than we did back in the 60s and 70s. So, yeah. But anyway, in 1985 in Arkansas, Charles met another woman named Dixie. She asked him to move in with her. She ended up taking care of him, like paying all his bills and, you know, supporting him in every way, because why not?
A sugar mama.
He seems like a winner, so, you know, whatever. No.
He's actually not, I mean, he's not a bad-looking guy. I hate to say it, but he's not a bad-looking guy.
So maybe...
He's a good-looking guy. He kind of has that cowboy, old, rugged kind of cowboy look to him.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So maybe his looks got him some things.
Don't they always?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the way the world works, right? Sometimes the cover doesn't meet what's inside the content.
True.
So... You know, he was delivering newspapers in the early morning. It was more like a cover, though. This was for him to pick up prostitutes without Dixie knowing that's what he was doing.
Nice.
So
on his little bicycle while he's delivering newspapers. Ring, ring.
Right. I can picture it. That's what I'm going to picture in my mind. Oh, man. He's like seriously a winner. In 1985, during all of this time, he was actually also accused of molesting a 14-year-old girl, one of his friend's daughters. So he wasn't prosecuted on that. The charges never really went anywhere. I don't know if this was stopped by like the parents or, you know, when a child's so young, sometimes parents don't want them to relive it. So that could have been it. But
it's also the 80s, so maybe it was like less, I mean now even too, but at this point it was even more so like, well, maybe she enticed him or she brought it on in some way. She flirted with him.
Right.
Oh, it's awful.
Right. And that's so sad to think about.
Oh, yeah.
But that's really how people thought back then. It definitely was the truth. So, but yeah, crazy. The story just gets kind of crazier. This is more of his start to his crime sprees.
Yeah.
As other psychopaths and things like that we hear about, they always start with like petty crimes and work their way up to.
Right? It just goes to show you that that's
Yeah.
just the norm. They never just immediately, well, very rarely do they just immediately murder. There's always this lead up to it.
Yeah, exactly. So moving into the crime itself, in December 1990, a young lady by the name of Mary Lou Pratt was found dead, wearing only a t-shirt and bra. She was actually found by kids that thought they were strolling upon a mannequin.
It's never a mannequin.
I know.
It's never a mannequin.
If you think, but you know, your brain's just like, has to
Of course.
associate it with something, so you're like,
Right.
oh, it's just a mannequin, and then you're like,
Did
wait,
people?
that...
So I think people just think that department stores and that just throw away mannequins upon mannequins upon mannequins.
Toss them on the side of the road, because
Right.
that's what we do. I mean, seriously, I think that's what it is, because you hear this story over and over and over again when you listen to podcasts about them thinking it was a mannequin. But,
you know what, though? I was listening to My Favorite Murder the other day, and they have a series where they do hometown murders where people can write in and talk about their murder from their hometown. And somebody did one where they were spelunking down a cave, and they found a body, and they were terrified, and they were high, and so they called the police anyway, and the police showed up in force. Ambulances and fire trucks and police cars, and it was a mannequin.
oh my god! So the opposite.
I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh my god, sometimes it is a mannequin.
That's so crazy. Well, the saddest part about this, though, it was kids. They didn't tell us their ages, but it said kids, so I assume
a Stand By Me situation.
Teenager age, probably. Right. So sad. Mary Lou, she had been shot in the back of the head with a .44 caliber gun, as well as being beaten badly. She was, as I mentioned before in the beginning, that she was a well-known prostitute in the neighborhood of Oak Cliff in Dallas.
How old was she?
33.
They were all very different ages. It was like 22, 33, and 47. Like, they're all like different decades of their lives.
Yeah, it was 33, 27, and 45.
Okay.
So at first, detectives thought this was just a murder of chance due to the risky lifestyle that Mary Lou was living, until the medical examiner reported that the killer had removed both of her eyes with surgical precision. And apparently he had taken them with him as a trophy.
What a trophy, man.
Eyeballs.
Ugh.
Eyeballs, right? Seems really freaking disgusting, but why eyes? I don't think we ever learned. Like, I never learned why eyeballs.
Why eyeballs? It's, I mean, sometimes there is no reason.
There should
should be a reason. I mean, he was going pre-med. Maybe and he did taxidermy, and taxidermy has the fake eyes that you put in the animals. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
So if he removed the eyes, he would have had to taken something with him. Like, to me, like, it just sounds so gross, like something that looks like a spoon.
Well, they said that on one of them that they found a piece of an X-Acto knife. So
I use X-Acto knives all the time. Now I'm gonna think of that. Ugh.
There you go. They found the blade of an X-Acto knife there. So yeah, it's pretty gross. And he would have to take in something liquid too, because the eyes would shrivel up. They're mostly water, right? So you would have to have like a jar with liquid in it with you to take them with you. Yep. So the killer struck again in February of 1991. This was December of 1990, the first one, and then February of 1991, the second one.
So it's only a few months.
Yeah. Yeah, so another well-known prostitute in the same neighborhood as Mary Lou. Her name was Susan Beth Peterson. She was found nearly nude and shot 3 times in the top of her head, left breast, and the back of her head. So,
jeez.
Yeah, he was just going for it at this point. The medical examiner during the exam placed her hands on Susan's face, and she pushed up the stiffened eyelids and found that the eyes had been removed. So at first, like, this is when they started, like, realizing that this was a serial offender, like somebody that, a repeat offender at this point. It's so crazy. And then a third victim was actually found a month later in March of 1991. And this is Shirley Williams, another prostitute that was found dead lying next to an elementary school.
Aww.
Yeah. A waitress found Williams' nude body propped up against the curb. Just like the other 2 victims, her eyes had been removed with surgical precision, and this is where they found the X-Acto knife blade.
Oh, okay.
She had facial bruises and a broken nose and had been shot in the face and through the top of her head.
Ugh.
As I mentioned, the medical examiner pulled back her eyelids and noticed that her eyes were missing at this time. So
they didn't really know that they were missing until they, like, opened the eye. I don't know how I mean, when your eyelids are closed, how that shapes... You know, if you would be able to notice that the eyes weren't there.
I'm assuming you probably would. It wouldn't have that little bump, but to actually confirm.
But she was also shot in the face, so that changes the look.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I think that they probably don't notice all of this until the medical examiner goes over everything, but pretty crazy. During the investigation, 2 Hispanic brothers were questioned based on a tip, but there was no evidence against them, so the case went cold at this time. 2 months later, this is where a 4th victim comes into play, and her information, she kept going back and forth on who actually attacked her. But a couple months later, police remembered that there was an incident of a prostitute that was questioned because she was beaten badly. She confided in officers Regina Williams Smith and John Matthews that a John had tried to kill her, and then he ended up raping her. This was around the same time that Mary Lou had been murdered in December of 1990. So the officers, the victim's name is Veronica. The officers told Veronica that the violence was just part of the lifestyle, so there wasn't much they could do for her.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah, and so this is a frustrating statement, obviously. This is what still happens today when people have, like, high-risk lifestyles. It's still happening, like, but not as bad as it did back then. Back then, it was just like they kind of wrote you off, and they're like, well, you chose your life, so it's all on you. It's your fault that this happened to you.
That's...
Yeah, but...
And I'm assuming since, I mean, this is like the 90s, you keep saying prostitute. I'm assuming that that's what's in the literature.
Yes.
It's sex worker now.
Yeah, it is sex worker now. It was prostitute in the literature. Just know that I'm just reading off of what I'm getting off of the information.
Right.
Otherwise, I would state it as sex worker. So just know I'm not trying to be crude or rude or inappropriate or anything like that. So eventually they got a tip that led them to Charles Albright. On March 23rd, 1991, Charles was arrested and charged with 3 counts of murder.
Oh, that was pretty quick, though, because that last one was in March of 1991, right?
Yep.
So that was pretty quick.
So they got a... Yeah, which is good. And I think that that one victim, Victoria, kind of led them in that direction. Mm-hmm. Even though she kept going back on saying that it wasn't him that attacked her. She was like saying that he was a driver that just helped her, like rescued her. So I think eventually they saw through her lies and her deceptiveness, and they...
That's weird. Why would you lie? Why would you say he didn't do it when he did do it?
Maybe he threatened her, like, with her life or whatever, you know?
Maybe.
You never know.
That's true.
In these situations, it's hard to get, like, clear data because with them being in the line of work that they were, not a lot of documentation was... it wasn't handled properly, we'll put it that way. Since most of the evidence was circumstantial, unfortunately, the charges went from capital murder to murder, meaning the death penalty was off the table at this time. And eventually, District Attorney's Office settled on prosecuting Charles for only 1 murder, which was the 3rd victim, Shirley Williams. They didn't really explain why they were dropping it just down to the 1 murder charge.
A lot of times they'll do that because they figure if they mess up and they don't get him convicted for the one, they have 2 others that they can try him for.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. I don't know if they got that smart in the 90s, but I know that they do that now.
I don't think so, but maybe. Everything I read just didn't have really a good
explanation.
A good reasoning behind it, yeah. So his trial began on December 13th, 1991. And they actually found hairs at Shirley's murder site that actually matched to Charles's hair. And that's kind of the only concrete evidence they had. So that might be another reason why they went just with her.
And that's also kind of a problem nowadays because hair analysis is not a thing. That's junk science because hair can look so similar from one person to the next. Unless it has the skin tag on it and they can test it for DNA, it really doesn't. Right. My hair might look just like your hair even though you're blonde and I'm brunette. Well, I'm gray. But I'm brunette. So, I mean, like, the actual hair follicle itself might look very similar to millions of other people. So that's kind of junk science now. So that's interesting. Yeah, exactly. That's really the only, quote, and forensic evidence that they had. So
they, didn't have any other forensic evidence. Like I mentioned, all the evidence was circumstantial. I'm assuming that's the reason that they didn't continue with the other two, because they felt like they had a stronger case with Shirley. Mm-hmm. It does make sense.
Oh, and question too. I know that they were sex workers. Did he rape them, or did he have sex with them at all beforehand, or did he just kill them?
It wasn't stated in the articles I read. I would assume yes, that he did. Yeah. Because he did rape the one victim that did survive. She mentioned that she was raped. Okay. Yeah, so I assume yes. But sometimes you just find...
Well, and that might be hard for them to tell, because if they're sex workers, it's hard to tell if they were not... Well, I mean, I know that there's probably ways to tell if they were raped, but just the fact that they had sex would not be... Yeah. I mean... They probably already had sex that day with multiple men, assuming. Right. So,
and in a lot of these cases too, like he sounds like he's not really sexually driven by all of this. Like I think that the sex workers are more of it's like an easy opportunity, for him to do what he really wants to do, which is to murder.
And take out their eyeballs.
And take out their eyeballs, because he is interested in that for some reason. So, yeah.
Medically speaking, though, I mean, I guess I could see that. I could never go into the medical field because I can't do blood. I gag when my son gets a bloody nose. So that wouldn't work out for me. But some people, it's just very interesting, the dissection of things. Yeah. And for some reason, he focused on the eyes.
Yeah. So, blood doesn't affect me. So on December 18th, 1991, so this was pretty quick, 5 days after the trial started, the jury deliberated and found him guilty of only one murder, as we mentioned, Shirley Williams. Charles was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He stayed there until he died at West Texas Regional Medical Facility in Lubbock, Texas in August of 2020. So he just recently died a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, this was...
So, 1991 was when he was convicted?
Yeah.
And so he spent almost 30 years in jail.
Yep. Wow. And it doesn't say what he died from. I mean, it was during the pandemic, so who knows if that's what it was. But
yeah, I mean, it was pretty old, too, I imagine.
So, yeah.
Did they ever find out, what he did with the eyeballs? Did he keep them?
I didn't find anything on that. There is a book out there that...
They never found
I didn't finish the book, and I really want to. So this might be something where I go back and do, an update on some stuff, because I feel like I can make it a two-parter, just because there's a really long book that I want to read about it. So I might do, a quick little update, maybe on one of our next episodes, so I can let you know. So, to be continued.
There's so many... Right? There's so many cases that have, these books, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to read that. And then I look at Audible, and it's not on Audible, and then I'm like, never mind.
We don't have time to really read, guys. We listen to it when we do other stuff. Okay. No.
Exactly. I listen to it while I'm, doing laundry.
My commute is when I listen to stuff. My commute.
Hanging out with my kid.
So.
Yeah, yours is your commute, yeah. I'm usually, I have 5 people in my family, so I feel like I'm always doing laundry.
I can imagine.
So, pretty much all the time. Yeah. So that's when I listen to podcasts a lot, is doing laundry. So, yeah, that's crazy. So our next episode, so we decided that on the 10th, so episode 10, 20, 30, we're going to do multi-state murderers. So the next episode is going to be a multi-state murderer.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And
it's going to be so good.
So yeah, and so that one, so this episode will come out on Monday. Yes, on the
14th.
Was that the 14th?
March 14th. Yep.
Yeah. So this episode will come out on Monday the 14th. So happy St. Patrick's Day that week. And make sure you follow us on all of the socials. We're on all of them. True Crime State of Mind or True Crime State on Twitter and Snapchat. And you can email us at truecrimestateofmind@gmail.com. Check out our website, www.truecrimestateofmind.com. And we'll see you next time.
Well, that was a crazy situation.
Right?